Hello, hello. My name is Alexandra. I'm a professional fashion designer, pattern cutter, and creative consultant who is here to help you feel great in the clothes you create. And part of that creative process is having sustainable solutions to the scrap fabric that we inevitably create. Now, outside of being a fashion designer, I'm an avid bookworm, and so today's free scrap busting pattern is all about making your very own adorable bookmark designs. Now, as you know, I pledge to give scrap buster patterns away for free, so you can download 15 various bookmark templates for you to get started with this really cute design. Oh, look, I wonder what this fabric was from. The leftovers of my Gemini blouse. So not only do these make really cute gifts, I know my partner was using a piece of masking tape for millennia before I made him this little number, but they really are fantastic use of your scrap fabric. They're sustainable, and above all, they're very beginner friendly. So this is such a quick sew project, and I cannot wait to see what you do with the free templates I provide. And so to get started, make sure you download your free PDF templates, pick one of the 15 that you'd like to make, and equip yourself with some fabric scraps, some scissors, both paper and fabric. A sewing machine will be very handy, an iron, an ironing board, and some optional interfacing alongside your pins and standard sewing notions. But let's jump into it. I have selected my bookmark template. I've got literally a scrap piece of fabric. This was used to test stitching here. So I literally hoard everything. I would love to know if you hoard everything as well. Let me know in the comments. I feel like as creatives, we are definitely guilty of doing that. I'm then just going to pin my template on my fabric. I want to be cutting out 2 pieces, hence why I've folded this scrap in half. I wouldn't even worry too much about the grain line of this. There's not a grain line on the template. This is just intended to be a little bookmark. So how it hangs and how it drapes is not as important as a piece of clothing. And then because this is a relatively silky textile that I've got going on here, I will be cutting out some interfacing, but that is totally optional for you as well. And again, you might have scrap interfacing, so that's also a really good use of your scraps. For something as slippy as this, you might actually prefer to cut it out with a rotary cutter and a cutting mat. Whatever your unique creative process looks like, fine by me. I am not here to judge. And so you should be left with these 3 pieces here. Again, the fusing is optional. What we then want to do if we are fusing our pieces is at an iron, dry hot iron, we want to fuse this, which is the shiny glue side there. That one's a little bit more matte. We want to fuse the shiny glue side to the wrong side of our textile. And you might need to use a pressing cloth for this, just meaning another bit of fabric to go over so that you don't cause any damage or burn a hole in your fusing. So let's head over to the iron and reinforce this piece of textile here. At this stage, you might wish to make a tab or some additional decorative element. This is totally optional, but what I'm going to do is just cut roughly by eye, a little rectangle of fabric, and I can fold this in half. I have picked a relatively slippy textile for this example, but if you want to use up your cottons or something that is just easier to work with, then by all means do that. I'm going to fold it in half, unfold it, and then fold my corners in to that center crease line that I've just made, like so. Same this side. And this is just going to make sure that I've finished all the edges nice and neatly. Kind of like making a bit of bias tape. But again, we're just working with scraps, so it really doesn't need to be too precious. And I'm just going to, now that that's all folded in, give that one a good press. And then this part here, it now kind of opens like a book. I'm just going to edge stitch to close this all together. I'll be folding this over to create a loop, and I'll sandwich this between my bookmark. So I'm just going to edge stitch this at the sewing machine. So now what I can do is I can fold this in half, and I can choose to position it towards the center of my bookmark at the top here. And I can just sandwich that like so between my 2 pieces of fabric. With a pin, I could just pin that in place. I'm just eyeing the center, but if you'd like to fold your bookmark template in half and notch it, then that is totally up to you. These kind of quick win sewing projects that not only use up your scraps, but they're just a nice beginner friendly approach. I wouldn't get too hung up on it. How I approach these projects is very different to how I approach garments, where precision is key. But if you need to, then you can put your bookmark pieces right size together, and you can pin them in place so that there's no shifting, especially important if you are working with a slippy textile like this. I'm just going to pin, especially in the corners. Where possible, try and pin within your seam allowance, just in case you're working with a delicate textile that does get perforated easily and you don't want to see that from the right side. And I'm going to pin down one of the long edges, and I'm just going to start on this side, and I'm going to leave a gap, but I'll be sewing all around the perimeter with a 1 centimeter seam allowance in line with my template. So I'm going to start with my needle in my work. When you hit a corner, leave your needle in your work and you'll be able to lift your foot and pivot that around. This will really help you get a nice crisp corner. And then I can just snip away, making sure not to cut through my stitches so that I'm reducing bulk. I want to snip into the corner up here just to relieve all this tension. You can see that it's curling up ever so slightly. So we just want to relieve any tension, reduce bulk, really take care not to snip through your stitches. But get close to them and you can trim away all this excess. If you're doing one of the more basic templates, which is literally just a square or an oblong, then releasing the tension doesn't count. If you're doing one of the more advanced templates, which is lettering, we've got one that says read, one that says book, one that says page, then keeping your needle in your work at the intricate corners, snipping away any excess, clipping and notching, these are all important stages. I'm just going to snip away. And then because we have left a gap, what we can now do is turn our bookmark through. Take your time with it. Can be quite fiddly. You've got a tab here, this optional tab that we've included, you can pull that. You might want to equip yourself with a PDT, which is short for pokey down thingy. So I have this knitting needle here, and I'm just going to gently, ever so gently, get into my corners. And that's given me a really nice crisp corner there. I can flip my work upside down, and I can get into these swallowtail corners in the bottom. When you have a bookmark shape like so, I can go over to the iron and give this a good press. What you'll notice is that your seam allowance here will fold in, and whether you choose to hand sew that shut or you'd like to do a line of edge stitching all around your bookmark, that's it. That is literally how simple it is, and you can play around with a variety of templates. And there we have it. I really hope that you enjoyed this little tutorial. As I say, there are so many options for customization, from adding a little fabric tassel with even more scraps to just putting a tab on the end or not having one at all. You can also make these in sentimental fabrics, which also add to that gifting experience if you would like to give these to someone. Or if you're like me and you've got 12 million books on the go at once, then these do come in handy. Let me know what you make with them, tag me across social media, and I cannot wait to see your sustainable scrapbuster bookmarks.